Jangsem Monday. Jangsem Monday.
It's such an honor to be here and to be a part of such an amazing conference and with such amazing guest speakers as well. As you've heard already, there's many different reasons why people go vegetarian, whether it's for the environmental reasons and global warming impacts, or the religious, or compassion for animals. There's many different reasons. But for me, originally it was definitely for health reasons, and then all the other reasons came later on. But I thought I'd start by telling you a bit about my personal story and how I became vegetarian and what led me to be interested in it. From a young age, I suffered from severe allergies, skin problems. I had acne all over my face. I had a lot of digestive problems. And I spent most of my teenage years on medication, from antibiotics to steroids, and with no real results. Instead, I started building up immunity to a lot of the medication I was taking. And instead of healing myself, I was in the long run actually making myself a lot more ill. And my gut and stomach suffered tremendously from all of this medication I was taking. So I decided it was time for something new, and I began researching natural healing methods. As Hippocrates once said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." So a common theme kept coming up in my searches that kept leading me back to the same thought. And that's that meat and dairy essentially were the cause to a lot of the problems I was having. So having grown up believing that meat was the only way to get protein, I never thought that meat could actually be harming me. We're brought up with these ideas so deeply ingrained within us that we don't ever question them. It's only when we get sick or ill or have any problems that we actually begin to question our lifestyle. So I decided to then challenge these beliefs, and I gave up all animal products. I felt I had a choice between believing what I was taught in the Western world and being reliant on medication my whole life, or spending a bit of time researching and finding natural cures. So I then spent a bit of time researching, and I tried out many different avenues, from a homeopathic medicine to allopathic, and I finally found a solution using plant-based foods as medicine. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by plant-based foods, I mean a diet rich in vegetables, fruit, grains, nuts, seeds, herbs. And then, so in the West, we're so reliant on medicine. When we have a problem, I think actually it's all over the world, when we have a problem, we, instead of actually investigating what the problem is, and we try to hide the symptoms, instead of investigating and eliminating the root cause of the problem. So I now use food as my medicine, and I don't take any form of medication. I began finding fresh, local, live, living food, and began seeing that when you eat something living, fruits and vegetables, it actually puts that life and energy back into you. I've now been following this lifestyle for many years, and my symptoms began to improve and reverse immediately, and my skin cleared up, I felt more energetic, and I put essentially life back into my body. So I then spent the next couple of years afterwards studying on nutrition, and I went and spent a lot of time in a health center in America called Hippocrates Health Institute, where they have a lot of patients with many different illnesses, from cancer to diabetes. And through changing their diet, they were able to heal themselves without any medication, without chemotherapy, without insulin medication. And this was, for me, an amazing thing to see, and also for people to be able to heal themselves through diet alone. That is what we need to aim towards. And so I feel like a great way to just see what we're designed to eat is to look at the animal kingdom. We're most closely related to that of primates, so monkeys, chimpanzees, gorillas, with 99.4% of our DNA sequences the same as a chimpanzee. And if you look at a chimpanzee and gorilla, we have very similar features. We our hands, we have flattened teeth for grinding plant-based matters. But then if you compare that to a carnivorous animal like the tiger, for instance, they have claws, they have sharp fangs for ripping into their prey and essentially attacking and eating their prey, something we don't have. We're not adapted like that. So it turns out we look different, but it also turns out that our digestive system and bodies are built differently as well. Our intestine is about 30 feet long, which is about 12 times the length of our body. And it's designed this way so that there is enough time to absorb all the plant and fruit matter, which is quickly broken down and moves our body much quicker than animal protein does. The tiger, for instance, carnivorous animals, have a much shorter intestine, which is only about 3 times the length of their bodies. And it's designed like this because it's designed to be short so that the plant matter can quickly move through their bodies. It's designed so it can quickly get rid of all the acidic waste that is the byproduct of animal protein. So that we are designed very different. So it turns out we are designed differently, but we have the biological makeup of a gorilla, but we're eating like a tiger. So this is going to cause a lot of problems for our bodies. Our bodies are like cars in a way. If you fill them up with the wrong petrol, you're going to run into a lot of problems. The car will eventually stop and not work anymore. And our bodies are the same. You can go on so long putting the wrong products and eating the wrong stuff, but after a while, it's going to catch up with you and people will start getting ill and sick. And that's the precursor of illness. So we can get all the nutrients and energy our cells need from a plant-based diet, through a vegetarian diet. So there's no reason for us to be eating animal protein. All animal foods have their origin from plants. Plants convert the sun's energy into fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, and they pull up the minerals from the soil. So when you eat animal products, you're essentially eating plants second-hand. And also things you don't need, like saturated fats, cholesterol, and then carcinogenic animal protein. So for instance, a cow eats the grass. The grass is essentially the life force for the cow, where it gets all its nutrients from. And when you eat the cow, you are getting the nutrients second-hand because you're essentially getting what the cow ate. So we need to instead be eating straight from the source and eating the plant matter. When people have a big meat meal, how do you usually feel afterwards? Most people usually feel sluggish, slow, lethargic, don't have a lot of energy, because all your energy then is spent trying to digest the meal you've just eaten instead of spending the energy elsewhere. We need to be eating lighter foods, essentially, which give us the energy and life. For instance, in many countries that eat large amounts of meat, like Argentina, Spain, they all take siestas after their meals because all their energy then is spent trying to digest all this meat they've just consumed. The one question I always get asked when people find out I'm vegetarian is, where do you get your protein from? Protein is a big thing that a misconception, essentially. Plants are a fantastic source of protein. Everything in life needs protein to live, and fruits and vegetables are no exception to this. By consuming a wholesome plant-based diet, you will receive more than enough to satisfy your body's needs. It may surprise you actually to discover that greens are one of your best sources of instantly absorbable alkaline protein. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and green vegetables are loaded with these muscle-building nutrients. How do you think cows get their magnesium, calcium, phosphorus, all the nutrients they need to survive? It's through plants. The green grass they eat contains all the phytonutrients they need to flourish. So we essentially need to be cutting out the middleman, the cow, and going straight to the source and eating grass, essentially. Many people believe protein is a solution, but it's actually the problem. it can be a problem. You actually need far less of it than we are taught, and in reality your body can only handle so much protein before it's stored as a toxin or eliminated. Efficient and clean bodies need very little protein to regenerate normal muscle growth, generate heat, and stimulate energy. Animal flesh does not provide the human physiology with critical amino acids or vitamins as readily as from a plant-based source. The deficiencies that vegetarians and vegans often encounter are caused by highly acid-forming diets, processed foods, bad combinations, and so on, not by the lack of protein and certainly not by the lack of animal flesh. Flesh foods are not ideal for us. They are much more difficult to digest than plant vegetation and also generate excessive amounts of uric acid that increase harmful acidity to the body. The slow transit times of these concentrated foods may cause fermentation and gas pressure that causes inflammation, which is the precursor to most illnesses. Herbivores such as elephants, horses and gorillas consume entirely plant-based diets, and they certainly don't lack any strength or muscle. If these animals can all live on greens, why can't we? So I've been in Bhutan now for, I think, 5 days, and I've walked through a lot of farms, and I've been in Thimphu, actually, the fruit and vegetable market. And here there's such a wide variety of plant matters, of fruits and vegetables and grains, and the fact that everything is, most of everything here is organic and local. You're way ahead, essentially, of many other places in the world. In England now, we went so far away from organic and everyone started spraying all their crops with chemicals that we've now realized what a mistake we've made and are trying to move back towards what you essentially have here. The problem, though, is vegetarian. You can be a very unhealthy vegetarian. Just because you're vegetarian doesn't mean you're healthy. And because a lot of people that go vegetarian then want to substitute their diet with a lot of oils, fats, a lot of pasta, a lot of things essentially that don't provide us with a lot of nutrients. And people start becoming anemic, having calcium deficiencies, lack of B vitamins, and plants, a lot of leafy greens like spinach, kale, you have a lot of asparagus here. They're great sources of calcium and iron. Spinach actually and kale contain more iron per calories than meat does. And the lack of B vitamins that a lot of people have due to the vegetarian diet is also because the soil is where you get where you essentially get B vitamins from. And it's a bacteria that's grown in the soil which is on the vegetables. But most people now overcook all their vegetables, which destroys, as soon as you cook something, it destroys a lot of the nutrients in the food. And overcooking it kills a lot of everything that's good, the goodness in the food. So we want to be having not so overcooked stuff and covered in oil to essentially get all the nutrients and vitamins we need from a plant-based diet. We're part of a greater whole here, and the choices we make aren't just about us. What we buy and eat is not just critical to one's own health, it's also, of course, critical and relevant to those living beings we choose to eat or not eat. And it's critical to the survival of species and to the survival of the planet Earth. So I hope I was clear and made and was clear to everybody, and it's time, I believe, for a change, and any meal you can essentially move towards eating more vegetables is a great step. Thank you.
Jangsem Monday. Jangsem Monday. Jangsem Monday. Jangsem Monday. Jangsem Monday.